On another matter, this is your area of responsibility. We've had a statement from Jane's Defence Journal, the journalist Ridwan Rahmat. He says he stands by his story that the Russians did approach Indonesia, that it's rock solid. This, if we move it beyond what Peter Dutton said and his, the fact that he misspoke, fundamentally this is a worry, isn't it? That the Russians are seeking a foothold in our backyard.
Well, firstly, Peter Dutton did more than misspoke. I mean, Peter Dutton shot from the hip. He asserted that the President of Indonesia had made comments which he simply hadn't made. He asserted that the President of Indonesia had made an announcement that he hadn't made. That's not misspeaking. That's getting your facts wrong, and that is verballing the President of Indonesia, our near neighbour, and it really demonstrates that when the pressure is on, Peter Dutton does not have the temperament required to be the Prime Minister of our nation, that he does shoot from the hip, and it was incredibly reckless and dangerous for Peter Dutton to assert what he did. Look, we know that Indonesia has been part of the non-aligned movement for decades. It has an established relationship with Russia. That's not news. I mean, Indonesia operates a whole lot of Russian kit, for example, in their defence force. And so the comments that we've heard from the Russian ambassador to Indonesia, none of that is news. What matters is that Indonesia has made it abundantly clear to me personally, from my counterpart, Minister Sjafrie, the Defence Minister, that there is absolutely no prospect of Russian aircraft operating from Indonesia. Now, that is exactly the assurance that we need to hear, but to be honest, that was not a surprise to me because it's completely consistent with our relationship.
In your mind, you've had that reassurance. Is that end full stop done? They're not going to have a presence there, like an ongoing base or military presence?
Absolutely. The Indonesians could not have been more clear. Minister Sjafrie could not have been more clear in his conversation with me, and that is the position of Indonesia. So, now, Indonesia has a relationship with a whole lot of countries in the world. We understand that. President Prabowo has many times made clear that they have a tradition of non-alignment, and we understand that. That in many respects that gives comfort, but it also means that we need to be focusing on our bilateral relationship with Indonesia, which we've been doing over the last 3 years. And the defence cooperation that we're now engaging with Indonesia has never been higher. The defence cooperation agreement that we signed with Indonesia last year, that I signed with my then counterpart, now President Prabowo, is the deepest relationship at a defence level that we've had with Indonesia. And the assurance that I received from Minister Sjafrie on Monday is entirely consistent with that.
Yeah. You hear this rhetoric from the Russian diplomat in Jakarta saying that our alliance is destabilising. The irony of that is quite extraordinary, but given, I know that they've got a tradition of being non-aligned, Indonesia, but do you feel that we can make more ground, are making more ground to ensure that while they might be part of the unaligned movement, that we are their next door neighbour and that we should be seen as someone that you brief and keep in the loop when this sort of stuff comes across your desk, like the Russians wanting a base?
Well, firstly, various assertions have been made about when people knew various bits of information. I'm not about to canvass that in the public domain, and nor should I. And so it's important that people not make assumptions about the way in which Indonesia and Australia have communicated. Let me say this, though. I am utterly happy and comfortable with the way in which we have been communicating with Indonesia in respect of defence and in respect of this matter specifically. So it's important to make that point. The broader question that you ask is right. I think what we now have is a sense where Indonesia really does have an appreciation for Australia's national interest, as we have a much better appreciation of Indonesia's national interest and how they complement each other, which is, manifest when you look at the map. There is so much opportunity for us to be working closely together in terms of, us giving strategic depth to Indonesia. Indonesia, of course, being to our north, being an important place that we need to be working closely with. We both understand the strategic advantage in us working more closely together, and that has been reflected in the Defence Cooperation Agreement that we've signed.
I'm advised by Liberal Party sources that you still haven't, that the government hasn't acceded to their request for a briefing on this issue. Why is that? Would you like to see them briefed on this Russia-Indonesia matter today?
Well, firstly, throughout the last 3 years, we could not have been more open and transparent in the way in which we have provided briefings to the opposition. There is nothing that has happened here. So when we talk about a briefing,
but they want a briefing.
What is absolutely clear is that the matters that the Liberal Party have been out there asserting have not, in fact, been real. Indonesia has made that completely clear. That has been placed into the public domain, and that is at the heart of this. And it didn't require a briefing for Peter Dutton to not verbal the President of Indonesia. I mean, Peter Dutton shot from the hip, and no briefing would have changed that. I mean, he went out without knowing what he was talking about and verbaled the President of Indonesia, which is absolutely unforgivable and demonstrates a temperament which is unfit to be the Prime Minister of this country. Now, but
if they want a briefing, there's nothing to it. Why don't you just give it to them?
Yeah, and we're utterly happy to provide briefings. But the point here is we're not talking about an Australian government decision here. We're not talking about Australian government action. What we're talking about is a conversation that I've had with the Defence Minister of Indonesia, the essential content of which has been placed into the public domain. There's no issue with a briefing, but we shouldn't be overstating what a briefing is going to reveal. The simple fact here is there is no prospect of Russian aircraft operating from Indonesia. Indonesia have made that clear. That has been placed into the public domain pretty well immediately, and that is that.
I've got. We're going to go live to Peter Dutton in just a moment. He's about to start his news conference, but quickly, if I can, in a minute. This claim that you've cut $50 billion from defence, they're going to have their own defence funding. We're told it'll be soon. Is this a vulnerability for you heading into the election, given the repeated suggestion that you've slashed defence spending?
Well, this is a matter of public record. So anyone who takes the time to look at the budget papers can reveal what is in fact an objective truth. It's not an opinion. We've increased defence spending by $57 billion over the decade, $10.6 billion over the forward estimates. We've had the largest defence procurement spend in the last financial year, and this financial year will be more. That is all a matter of public record. And Peter Dutton lying about this does not change the facts which are there in black and white as a matter of the public record. All it does is demonstrate that Peter Dutton is literally willing to say anything, even if it is absolutely not true, just a complete lie, in order to push his agenda. In terms of the Liberal Party's defence policy, I mean, who knows when we'll see that? Katy Perry has made it into space before we have seen the Liberals' defence policy. They've been promising it now for months and months, and people start voting on Tuesday. Right. It says everything about the lack of priority the Liberals place on defence.
Thank you. I didn't think we'd get to Katy Perry, but we did. Thanks, Richard Marles. Appreciate it.